Hello, I'm Mike, and this is For the Record. I welcome you to my humble abode. I just wanted to come here today and do a video to help somebody who might be looking to set up their turntable. So, if you're a regular viewer to this channel, this probably is not for you. Again, this would be for somebody who is looking for a little help or a little assistance to set up the turntable. So if you're still watching this, I guess you need some help, and I'm happy to oblige. I find myself frequently going onto YouTube if I'm looking to diagnose something, or if I'm looking for help for myself. A couple of years ago, I was having trouble with one of my turntables, and YouTube actually was is where I found some help. So I just thought I'd come here and do a video for somebody who again might be a beginner record collector, somebody who was, maybe you found an old record player at a yard sale, and you want some help to set it up. Maybe you want to turn around and sell it, what have you. But it's, you know, it's not complicated. It really isn't. For a long time, I was sort of afraid of touching the turntable. You know, everything is set. It's got knobs and buttons on it, and you don't want to touch anything that might kind of throw it off. So, you know, I was intimidated. You know, everybody starts out somewhere. But once you do it a few times, it's second nature. And I like to kind of keep my skills sharp, because you never know when you're going to need them, you know. And so a couple of things here. I will say that it's not complicated. It's actually simple. Now, there are ways you can set up a turntable. I mean, if you spend $10,000 on a turntable, or I know somebody who spent over $10,000 on a toner arm, you know, it gets a little more complicated. You know, you have tools and utensils you use to kind of put everything where they need to go. We're not talking about $10,000 turntables here, okay? So you don't need a protractor. You don't need a little gram scale. You certainly can use one, but a lot of times with a lot of these turntables, they have the grams written on the counterweight. Sometimes they don't. If they don't, you will need to get yourself a scale. They're under 20 bucks. I'm actually thinking about getting one just as a backup. But if you have the grams on the counterweight, you really don't need a scale. You just don't. So as long as your numbers are legible, they're not worn out, they're present and clear, it's very simple to do. It's only a few steps. And I guess I can continue on with, if you're going to swap out your cartridge, if you're going to put a new head shell on it, anytime you're going to put a new piece of, like I said, a head shell or a cartridge, you are going to want to do these steps. You are going to need to zero out and recalibrate the toner arm. If you get a new style, just adding a new stylus onto it, it's really not a big deal. You don't have to, shouldn't have to do anything. But again, cartridge, replacing the cartridge, or putting a different head shell on, you will have to do these steps. So here we go. Well, step number one. Well, let me say this actually. If you're still watching this, then you probably are not a normal viewer of my channel, and I'm not used to taking my phone and switching it around. I'm usually doing things here and doing, so it's going to be a little, you know, I'm going to joggle things around a little bit, and I'll do my best to show you and describe exactly what I'm doing. So let's say we think this turntable's out of whack. Maybe the toner arm is skipping across the record, which isn't good. Either stylus is either worn out, or more commonly, your weight is probably set way too low, or your grams are set way too low. So the first thing, let me see if I can reposition this over here. Okay. Sorry for the kind of joggling around here. So you have your head shell here. You have your anti-skating is going to be to the right here. Okay, it's going to be to the right of the toner arm. You're going to have your counterweight here. Now this, the wheel that has the grams on it is a different piece from the counterweight. Now that's going to be important in just a few minutes. Okay, so you have your gram here and you have your counterweight here. Again, two different pieces of equipment here. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to that anti-skating, which is right here to the right of the toner arm. Okay, the first thing you're going to do, step number one, is you're going to set that to 0. Anti-skate to 0. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to unclamp your toner arm. Now this is way off because it's going way up like that. Okay, now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to turn your counterweight counterclockwise. Okay, until that toner arm is floating. I'm going a half a gram at a time all right, I think I'm almost there. So it's almost there. It's almost floating. Let's see here. This is where you just gotta kind of play with it a little bit here. All right. That toner arm is just maybe a little less. See, I went like a quarter gram, and that went up that high. So we're gonna go back a little bit. You don't want it to raise too much. Okay, perfect. See, I'm gonna kind of push up on that a little bit, and that's floating right there. It's not quite sitting on the armrest there. Okay, that's perfect. That's just what you want to do. You're then going to take your toner arm and you're going to clamp it down, okay? Okay. Let's see how that is. A little bit more. All right, perfect. It's floating, see? It's floating, okay? You're going to take it and you're going to clamp it down. The next step is you're going to take, without turning the counterweight, you're going to take the wheel here that has the grams, and you're just going to turn that, not the counterweight, just the gram, and you're going to turn that to 0. Okay, that's is set to 0. Now again, you are not turning the counterweight, you're just turning the wheel. Okay, you are then, with this clamped, I should have said this in the beginning, a good weight is anywhere, between 1.5 to 3. 3 is max. If you're setting it higher than 3, then it's probably a problem with the equipment. It shouldn't really go above 3. 3 is the max. That's a good gauge, between 1.5 to 3. Mine, this particular one right here, I set at 1.5. Okay, and that You can use 1.5 to 2.5 as a gauge. And if it seems like the toner arm is skipping across the record, it's set too low. Maybe set it maybe 0.5 gram more in C. So I know this turntable, I play it at 1.5 grams. So you're going to turn that counterclockwise, okay? You can put it on 2 if you want. That's okay. And also, the cartridges do have a particular weight that you should follow. But this is more of a general. We aren't talking about $1,000 turntables here, okay? You know, you want to get really specific. The cartridge, there are specs to it, and it tells you exactly how to set it. 1.5, 2, I'd say that's pretty standard, okay? So I generally use go between the 1.5 and 2. This one right here, I have it set to 1.5. Now, whatever you set this grams to, okay, whatever you turned the counterweight to, you want to turn the anti-skate. Remember, just to the right of the toner arm, you want to turn that to the same number, 1.5. Okay? So again, whatever that's set at, you want to set the anti-skate to. Okay? Now, if all goes well, this should play without skipping across the record. Okay? Helps you if you turn it on.
Wonder where I'm going. The very last time that you saw me on, I thought it was understood that I'd be gone for
so that's it. It's you know, it's kind of intimidating when you're first looking at it. You're afraid to touch this and you're afraid to touch that, but it's not complicated at all. And again, a couple of key things. Each cartridge has specs in it. The instructions will tell you exactly what to set the weight to. Okay, but what I just showed is a generic, like just a general rule of thumb. Okay, it hasn't failed me yet. I've been doing it for years. You know, and a lot of times, if your toner arm is skipping across the record, your weight is you're more than likely the weight is off. It could be the weight, or it could be the needle is really worn out. More than likely, it's going to be the weight is way too light, and you just want to adjust it a little bit. But that's it. It's not complicated at all. I know some people are going to watch this and probably, you know, whatever. But if you're still watching this, then obviously you needed help, and I'm glad to help anybody who needs it. And if you have any questions, put them down below. And I think I've covered everything. I think that's it. If you're new to this channel, I ask that you take a look at my back videos and see if you like any of them. Any requests for videos. I do vinyl finds, I do product reviews, and that's it. That's it, everybody. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, as always, be kind to others, peace, and see you on the flip side.
It's a try.